What is up, YouTube? I'm Devon DaVinci, leader of the Renaissance Crew, and you're watching DaVinci Reacts. Today I'm going to be getting into a video by a very legendary atheist intellectual, and this person is, of course, Christopher Hitchens. The video I'm reacting to is called Best of Hitchslap, Part 1. So, if you don't know what getting hitch-slapped is, that is when Christopher Hitchens lays the verbal and intellectual smackdown on somebody he's debating or talking about in such an embarrassing way that if he had a mic in his hand, he would drop it. And this video was made by Agatan Foundations, or Agatan Foundation, not with the S at the end. There will be a link for this channel at the end of this video that you can click on, and you can go ahead and go to their channel and subscribe and things like that if you enjoyed this video. If you haven't seen this video before I react to it, I encourage you, please go and watch the video before I react to it. That way you can give the original content creator a view, you know, as well as you can understand what I'm getting myself into. So be sure to please go and check it out. If you've already seen it, you're good. You're free to watch the reaction, but I really encourage you to watch the original if you have not already gone and seen it. The link is in the description box down below. Just click it and just watch the video real quick. It's about 11 minutes, and you know, give them their view. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this and see what it has to offer. I look forward to seeing more of Christopher Hitchens.
Well, I asked her about, because she wasn't content just to say religious people volunteer for charities, if that was news to anybody, but she had to couple it with a smear against Fabianism and social democracy. Now, as a matter of fact...
Well, they weren't there, Christopher. That's all I was saying.
I'm so sorry to say
I
that without
the
efforts of Fabianism...
But you're good at smears.
The efforts of Fabianism...
What's wrong with the smear?
I'll get to the end of this sentence if it kills you. I, for one, will take it as extremely insulting if any person of faith makes the assumption that their faith gives them a moral edge on me. I want to hear a lot more apologizing from the faith-based communities for the evil that they've done before they even start clearing their throats and telling me I wouldn't know right from wrong without their permission. I'm sorry, I won't be, can't be spoken to in that tone of voice, and nor should any of you.
So what if God actually exists, sir?
Holy crap, is this a young Christopher Hitchens? This is the first time I've ever seen a picture like this. This is eye-opening to me.
Would he not have been good to you?
No. He wouldn't. Because if that were true, it would mean that I had an eternal supervising parent who would never die and let me get on with my life, never let me grow up, would keep me under surveillance.
But you have, sir.
And supervision every minute of my life,
but
and constantly asked me to be thanking and praising him.
Yeah,
I think it would be
wasn't part
like,
of the
it would be like living in North Korea. I think it would be a horrible outcome.
Well, not sure that God is Kim Jong-il, but what if what I said is true?
Well, ask Kim Jong-il, he has a different opinion.
Well, Muslim is the only guarantee of religious freedom, and yours and that of every other Muslim we will defend. But you won't be surprised that we have some questions for you in the meanwhile. Thank you. The people who you've been the megaphone for all evening and been encouraging, I might add, the silly girl who says, why should it only be men who decide? The people who... Randall Terry, Catholic... Randall Terry... Wait, are you asking me or telling me?
I'm asking you a question.
Well, why don't you listen to what I've got to say then?
You're saying that they're ridiculous people.
I've had to be sitting in this chair
situation
for half an hour listening to you being a megaphone for frauds, and I'm giving you my response. It's very impressive to me.
Okay, good.
It's very often the first thing. When we debate with Catholics, they always change the subject to charity right away. With Jews, it's usually a little later.
You just said that they...
And with Muslims, it's
at the
all the time. Because what else can they don't want to defend their faith.
But you just said the opposite. You just said that if you didn't believe, you wouldn't do it.
They don't want to defend their faith. They don't want to say, they feel uneasy talking about redemption, salvation, all this kind of thing. But look at the good work we've done. If you talk to the Mormons, they'll say, you may not think much of Joseph Smith. And I say, you got that right. So, but, boy, you should see our missionaries in Peru.
So government will do the work if religion does not?
Excuse me,
government?
What has this got to do with the existence of God or the validity of religious claims? It has nothing to do with it,
Social
which
utility.
is why it's always introduced as a time-wasting tactic.
Wait. No, don't applaud that.
Nothing to do with it.
He just...
Your view would be the same as mine, that child sacrifice is reprehensible, would it not?
Did Abraham think child sacrifice was an okay idea?
He obeyed God and God intervened. The ultimate question is, does God think child sacrifice, since he sent his own son to be the ultimate sacrifice?
Well, he appears to be in favor of it.
He does appear to be in favor of it, but in context.
You and I agreed that we were not. I'm only asking.
In his comment, one of the few he's made on the institutionalization of rape and torture.
Sometime I'm gonna go back and, you know, so we can continue to get this the context of what he's about to say. But yeah, I mean, a lot of arguments tends to be, as far as like religion and God and things like that, they tend to look at God as the moral compass. Like, okay, well, I get my morality from God, or we get our morality from God or the Bible or something like that. But then at the same time, it's like a lot of things that are in the Bible that God condones, we will openly admit that we do not agree with. Like the idea that, oh, well, you know, God told Abraham to kill his son Isaac, and Abraham, without really questioning it, you know, agreed to do it. And he would have done it had God not stopped him. Now, if you were in Abraham's shoes and some God told you to kill your son or daughter or whatever, would you do it? If you say yes, then yeah, you would be agreeing that God, you know, is your moral compass, but you don't know whether or not that's right or wrong. I mean, would killing your child be considered a right or wrong thing? And if you say no, then you're openly admitting that God is not your moral compass. You get your compass from somewhere else. And in this situation, you would agree that God is not the morally superior one. Same can be said for slavery in the Bible. I forgot the exact verses off the top of my head, but I believe it's Exodus 21, where God goes through the different lists of things that, like pretty much the rules and the commandments of humanity, and all 600 and I believe 17 of the commandments. And there's a lot of them that pertain to slavery and being in favor of slavery. And God telling you like the rules for slavery, what slaves to keep, how long you should keep them, the differences between Hebrew slaves and non-Hebrew slaves, and things like that. And it comes out that God pretty much is condoning slavery. You don't make rules for something that you don't condone. Otherwise, you would have just said, yeah, don't do slavery. But the fact that he sets rules out lets you know that he is in some way agreeing to condoning it. And if you agree that slavery is okay, then you would consider God's morality to be the superior one, where you would get your morality from. If you think that there's a problem with that, if you think that slavery shouldn't exist under any circumstances, then already you're saying that God is wrong in this, you know, particular area. And you're saying that you have, or at least where you get your morality from, is superior to than God's morality. That's another reason why I tend to have issues with the Bible and the concept of a Christian God in general. Well, not just Christian, there's a lot of different gods as well. But yeah, Christian is the one that I tend to point to because that's the one where I got most of my upbringing in. So I guess the question is, where do you get your morality from? Let me go back a little bit.
In his comment, one of the few he's made on the institutionalization of rape and torture and maltreatment of children in Catholic institutions, he has said it's a very severe crisis which involves us, he said, in the following: in the need for applying to these victims the most loving pastoral care. Well, I'm sorry. They've already had that.
The Bishop of Llandaff, in an argument with Thomas Paine, once said, well, when it says keep the women, as Paine had pointed out, he said, I'm sure God didn't mean just to keep them for immoral purposes. But what does the Bishop of Llandaff know about that? It says kill all the men, kill all the children, and keep the virgins.
Yeah.
I think I know what they had in mind. I don't think it's moral teaching.
Yeah. He was talking on that particular thing. I'm pretty sure he was talking about the slaughter of the Mennonites, because that was the verse that God told Moses and his followers, you know, to slaughter all the men and boys, as well as the women who have laid with men, and keep all of the virgins and women and stuff for yourselves. Obviously, that's not saying keep them to convert them over to Christianity. We kind of have a good idea of what that he means when he says keep the virgins and the women who have not been with men for yourself. You kind of get where it's coming from. Again, if you think that that is wrong, then you're saying that your morality is different than God. So you don't get your morality from God. You get your morality from somewhere else. And usually it comes down, like me, I get my morality from just well-being. What is considered to be positive for humanity? Would I want somebody to do the same thing to me or somebody that I know? I don't steal from nobody because I know what it's like to get something stolen from you, so I don't want to put anybody else through that because I know I don't want to be put through that. Same thing with killing. Same thing with killing somebody's family. Same thing with just about anything. Would you want somebody else to do the same thing to you? And would you want somebody to do something like that to your family? If it's no, then it's okay, well, I'm not going to do that to them. They're a person just like me. They'll probably feel the exact same way about something that I will, so I'm not going to do it. Now, sometimes, given certain contexts, you might do some stuff that would not be considered moral in other situations. I've already made reference to something that Matt Dillahunty said, in that in certain situations, throwing somebody out of a window of a house would be considered an immoral act. But if the house is on fire, then throwing somebody out of a window could be considered a moral act. It depends on what the circumstances of the situation is. But let's jump back into this. I've paused it enough.
For you to say of Nazism that it was the implementation of the work of Charles Darwin is a filthy slander, undeserving of you, and an insult to this audience. If it's an atheistic regime, then how come that in the first chapter of Mein Kampf, Hitler says he's doing God's work and executing God's will in destroying the Jewish people? How come the Führer oath that every officer of the party and the army had to take, making Hitler into a minor god, begins, I swear in the name of Almighty God, my loyalty to the Führer? How come that on the belt buckle of every Nazi soldier it says Gott mit uns, God on our side? How come that the first treaty made by the National Socialist dictatorship, the very first, is with the Vatican?
If someone tells me that I've hurt their feelings, I say, well, I'm still waiting to hear what your point is.
Right.
I'm very depressed how in this country you can be told, that's offensive, as if those two words constitute an argument or a comment. Not to me, they don't. And I'm not running for anything, so I don't have to pretend to like people when I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to this importance of narrative in its own right. They're fables, they're folk tales that have endured. They're not literally true, but there's great value in the universal truths that are taught just by the story itself. For example, the creation story. Could you at all agree with me that some of those stories are valuable just as a metaphor?
The creation story is ridiculous garbage and has given us a completely false picture of our origin as a species and of the origins of the cosmos. It's done nothing but harm, and it's considered laughable by anyone who's ever studied the subject. I mean, if you want me to give you a good mythical, quasi-mythical story, it would be the life of Socrates. We have no proof, as with Jesus, that he ever existed. So it doesn't matter to me whether he did or not, because we have his teachings and his method of thinking and his extreme intellectual and moral courage. And anyone who could look me in the eye and say they preferred the story of Jesus or Moses or Muhammad to the life of Socrates would, I think, be, I have to say it to you, intellectually defective.
Is it really to be believed that until they got to the foot of Mount Sinai, the followers of Moses believed that up till then, adultery, murder, theft, and perjury were okay? They're suddenly told, oh, hey, we got some new ideas for you. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an insult to the ancient Jewish faith, of which Jacob and I are both rather disgraceful ornaments in our different ways. As in vindication, being proved repeatedly and over again right when other people were wrong, that does a lot for me. But raising the sights a little, just a fraction, I'd say that to me that what matters most is the pursuit of happiness in the words of our greatest founding father, and the pursuit of liberty, freedom, and that these things are incompatible, completely incompatible with the worship of an unalterable celestial dictator, someone who can watch you while you sleep and convict you of thought crime, and whose rule cannot be challenged, and who's the big brother whose eternal reign may not be disputed. That makes the concept of the pursuit of freedom and happiness completely negative, negates it. So one of the things I live for is to return a stout and joyful non-serviam to this dictator, who I'm pleased to find doesn't really exist, but is instead a creation of those who want to install a theocracy in the real life where I can participate, and I'm not going to give them an inch. The second thing I live for is, if not exactly passing on my genes, taking part in activities that might allow those genes to be passed on. And not... I
think almost everybody agrees with you there.
The three delightful children who are everything to me and who are my only chance of even a glimpse of a second life, let alone an immortal one. And I'll tell you something, if I was told to sacrifice them to prove my devotion to God, if I was told to do what all monotheists are told to do, and admire the man who said, yes, I'll gut my kid to show my love of God, I'd say, no, fuck you.
Do you believe that that God, if he's provided everything for you, has rights on your life?
No.
Because?
Why should he? What gives him this right?
Because he owns you. He's created everything for you. He's kept you alive.
I don't want to be owned. I don't want to be owned, and I don't recognize anyone's right to own me.
So ownership is a bad thing?
Yeah.
Of people, yes.
Oh, okay.
It's been widely considered. I mean, I know the Bible does call for slavery, as it calls for genocide, but that doesn't make it right.
In Christianity, you have the idea, for example, that morality is intentional. If you've contemplated the sin, Christ says, in a sense, you've committed it.
Thought crime.
One second. The mullah
Thought
doesn't...
crime. Totalitarianism again. Thought crime.
Whether it is or not...
We know what you're thinking, and we can punish you for it. Totalitarianism defined. Tyranny defined. Thought crime. Now, I hope I made myself clear on the... But I'm wondering if I have, because you face me, Reverend, with two very unwelcome thoughts. Either I have been completely inarticulate in everything I've said this evening, or you have misunderstood me. I have to throw myself... Or these are not mutually exclusive, and I should have seen that coming. Not imposed? Did you really say not imposed? What if you reject this offer? What have you been told for centuries by Christians? If you reject this offer that took place by means of a torture to death of a human being that you didn't want and should have prevented, if you could. What if you reject the offer? If you accept it, you can have eternal life and your sins are forgiven. Oh, great. What a horrible way to abolish your own responsibility and get your own bliss. I don't want it. Oh, you don't? Well, then you can go to hell. This is not imposed. This hasn't been preached to children by gruesome elderly virgins backed by force for centuries. This hasn't poisoned whole societies. You can make anything up like that as you go along, as far as I can see. It means it's white noise. White noise, what you're talking to me. Absolutely meaningless. I just have to say, I make my living by scrutinizing words. It's what I do. Not a single thing you just said made a word of sense to me.
Well, that's because
and I don't think it would have written. I don't think it would have.
We're all a bit dumber after hearing that.
You can't understand.
It's ingratiating tone, I think.
Award you no points.
And
may your God have mercy
and the
on your soul.
unctuousness of it, and the extreme imprecision.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I think that's probably what I don't like.
Oh my goodness! Extreme imprecision. That is
extreme vagueness and imprecision.
Vagueness and imprecision.
I'm not saying mysticism is not great, am I? I'm saying that the belief that there is a divine revelation that can be interpreted by humans giving themselves secular power in the here and now is a real menace.
All right, well, there you go. That is Christopher Hitchens and him giving out some of his famous Hitchslaps. Some of them weren't necessarily Hitchslaps. There was a couple of them in there where he actually admitted to have made a mistake. So, I don't know, I'm going to have to go check out some more because, like I said, this one had some good ones in there, but I think that there were a few of them that could have been better. If you guys happen to know any more videos that you want to check out, be sure to leave it in the comment section. This video is a part of a series. There are multiple Christopher Hitchens videos that have been put together in by this content creator. And if you want to check out the other ones, go ahead and go to their channel. Like I said, it's going to be a link at the end of this video you can click on. It'll take you straight to their channel. You can look at all their stuff. But there's also other things that they're reacting to as well. I'm planning on checking out more than just Christopher Hitchens. At some point, I'm going to get into Richard Dawkins and Matt Dillahunty and everybody else. Aaron Ra. So I look forward to seeing you guys on those future videos. And if you happen to have any questions or anything like that, leave it in the comment section down below. And we can go ahead and, you know, have a discussion about them. I do hope that we have a discussion, because I don't really like my comment sections getting filled with, you know, junk, because I like to keep my stuff clean. So yeah, if you're willing to have a discussion, I'm willing to have a discussion as well. And that goes for the people that wants to argue on either side of the argument. Keep it at a discussion level. If I even let you call each other names, as long as if you have a reason for why you're calling the person the name and giving a good explanation of their discussions. Just don't come through, hurl insults, and leave. That will get you blocked. But anyway, that's been this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share. I am pretty much done for the day. So I will have some more videos coming to you guys soon. I don't know exactly what I'm going to be reacting to just now. I know what I'm going to be reacting to. Something I should have reacted to today, actually. But whatever. I will, you know, take care of that the next time I start recording. I look forward to seeing you guys on my next video. Until then, I'm going to give you guys the deuces. I'm Devon DaVinci. You've just been enlightened. Deuces.